Imagine waking up, stepping out with your morning coffee, and spotting something strange above your backyard fence. Metallic glints, stretching in rows, catching the early sunlight. You blink a few times, walk closer, and realize what you're looking at. Solar panels. Not one, not 10, a whole field of them. 189, to be exact. And here's the real kicker. They're not on your neighbor's roof. They're on your property. At first, you think it's a mistake. Some mix-up. Maybe the workers set up in the wrong yard. But then you look again, and it's clear. These panels were installed deliberately, mounted into your ground, lined up neatly across your backyard like soldiers in formation. You didn't sign anything. You didn't approve anything. You didn't even get a warning. Your phone buzzes. It's a message from your neighbor. Hey, saw the new panels. Guess the HOA finally moved forward with that solar initiative? You stare at the message. Your stomach turns. HOA? You scroll through your emails. Nothing. You check your mailbox. Empty. No heads up. No request for permission. No notification. Just rows of high-tech panels where your kids used to play. Your heart is racing now. You call the HOA. After 5 minutes of elevator music and one drop call, someone picks up. You ask why there are solar panels on your land. The woman on the line sounds cheerful, almost proud. Oh, yes. Those are part of the community's new sustainability project. Isn't it wonderful? You're hosting part of the shared energy grid. You're stunned silent for a moment. You ask why no one told you. Why you weren't asked. Her tone shifts slightly. It was in the last monthly newsletter. Page 3, right under the pet waste reminder. We assumed you were in support. Everyone was very excited at the last board meeting. You weren't at the board meeting. You never got that newsletter. And you certainly never gave your permission. You hang up, furious, staring at the panels like they've insulted you personally. You start pacing your yard, trying to figure out the boundaries, trying to see exactly how much space they've taken over. It's not just a small corner. It's more than half your property. They've dug into your soil, drilled supports into your land, and claim it like it wasn't even yours. You call a friend who knows about real estate law. He tells you this might actually be illegal. They can't just use your private property like that without a formal easement or agreement. Even HOAs have limits. You feel a small glimmer of hope, but it's buried under the weight of frustration. For the rest of the day, you can't stop staring at them. They hum quietly, a faint electric sound, almost like they're mocking you. You open a book, can't focus. You try to make dinner, burn the rice. You look out your kitchen window and see those panels again, stealing your peace and your land. The next morning, you notice something new. A group of HOA board members walking around the neighborhood with clipboards. One of them stops outside your fence. He doesn't come in, just peers through the slats, nods at himself, and writes something down. Like he's inspecting property he thinks belongs to them. That's when it clicks. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an accident. It was planned. They knew. They decided. And they expected you to roll over and accept it because they thought you wouldn't fight back. But they were wrong. You spend the next few nights reading. Digging into property rights, HOA rules, city ordinances, and landscaping laws. You find stories. Others like you, people whose HOAs overstepped. Some won in court. Others found creative ways to push back. You like the sound of that. On the third night, you step outside with flashlight and walk the perimeter of your yard. You start measuring, calculating, thinking. You imagine something taller than those panels. Something green. Something alive. You start sketching in a notebook. Not buildings. Not fences. Trees. Big ones. Wide ones. Tall enough to cast shade. Dense enough to block light. Enough of them to turn the sun away from every inch of those solar panels. Let the HOA try to harness solar energy then. You look up at the panels again, that faint electric hum still buzzing in the air. They planted their tech on your land without asking. So now, you'll plant something of your own. The next morning, you take a slow walk around your neighborhood, not to admire the flower beds or greet your neighbors, just to observe. You're looking for patterns, clues, anything that might explain why the HOA felt they could do what they did. You pass house after house with similar yards, similar fences. You notice something else, too. Not a single solar panel in sight. Not on their roofs. Not on their lawns. Nowhere. It's only your yard. Back home, you scroll through the HOA's website. Most of it's fluff, community BBQs, trash pickup schedules, reminders about lawn maintenance. You dig deeper into the meeting minutes. That's where it gets interesting. In the notes from 2 months ago, there's a vague mention of renewable infrastructure deployment. No location. No homeowner names. No signatures. You call it what it is. Sneaky. A quiet little line, buried under budget updates and fence paint guidelines. That's all they use to justify a decision that changed your property forever. You pull up the HOA bylaws. It's a thick document, filled with clauses that sound like they were written by a bored lawyer with thesaurus. But you read it all, slowly, carefully, over and over, and eventually a few lines jump out. Words about common areas, maintenance easements, and community benefit. None of them apply to your backyard. Your land is private, owned, deeded, clearly marked. And yet, the panels remain. You talk to a neighbor 2 houses down. She shakes her head and tells you she thought the panels were part of a joint project. She assumed you volunteered. When you say no, her eyebrows shoot up. They didn't ask you? You shake your head. She lowers her voice. You should talk to Carl. He used to be on the board. Quit last year. Said things got shady. That evening, you knock on Carl's door. He answers in a sweatshirt and slippers, blinking like he just woke up. When you explain why you're there, he lets you in, no questions asked. You sit at his kitchen table, and he pours you coffee like you're about to hear a war story. Carl tells you about the current HOA president, someone with big ideas and bigger ambition. Solar panels were his pet project. He'd been pushing for them for over a year, but no one wanted them on their property. No one wanted the noise, the mess, or the risk. Then someone suggested using the unused yard behind Lot 17. That's your lot. They figured you'd never notice, Carl says. Said you didn't attend meetings, so you wouldn't raise a fuss. You were convenient. You feel your jaw tighten. You thank Carl and walk home in silence. They saw your absence as permission. You're quiet as approval. That's how they operate. That night, you don't sleep. You go back online, searching for stories, forums, lawsuits. You find one case in Arizona where a homeowner sued an HOA for cutting down trees to install a shared sidewalk. Another in Texas, where someone fought back after the HOA tried to build a dog park in their backyard. In both cases, the homeowners won, but it took time and money and patience. You could go that route. Call a lawyer, take them to court, but that means months of waiting, thousands in fees. And even then, there's no guarantee the panels would come down. You need something faster, something they can't ignore. The answer comes to you as you stand by your window, staring out at the sea of panels. It's not just about blocking the panels. It's about making a statement, a living, growing message they can't erase with a letter or a fine. You start making lists. Fast-growing trees, species that thrive in your climate, trees with wide leaves, tall trunks, dense branches. You call nurseries. Ask questions. Take notes. Then you start marking your yard. Stakes in the ground. Ribbons on sticks. The plan takes shape, one tree at a time. The irony isn't lost on you. They use green energy to take your land. So you'll use green life to take it back. The panels rely on sunlight. Every hour of daylight is fuel for them. But what happens when that light gets stolen? When it's filtered through a wall of leaves and bark? When every sunbeam they're counting on gets turned into shade? You make a call to a landscaping company. Set up a delivery. Order more than a dozen saplings. The guy on the phone laughs when you tell him how many. You starting a forest? You pause and smile. Something like that. They arrived in a flatbed truck early Tuesday morning, young, tall, and green. Each tree standing like a soldier, ready for orders. The delivery guy looked at your yard, then looked at the solar panels, then back at the trees. You sure about this? He asked, half joking. You just nodded. The first hole you dig is shallow, rough. Your hands aren't used to this. But you don't stop. You keep going. The sun's beating down, and the irony isn't lost on you. The very thing those panels need is fueling the strength you're using to fight them. One by one, the trees go in. You water each one. Pack the soil tight around the roots. Every tree feels like a word, a sentence, a quiet kind of protest. Neighbors start to notice. First it's glances, then it's whispers. A woman walking her dog slows down to watch. Planting a forest? She asks. You smile and say, just try and get some shade. The second day, a man from the HOA shows up. He's got a name tag and a clipboard and that fake friendly smile that says he's not here to help. Nice trees, he says. But, the HOA has landscaping guidelines. Certain heights, certain distances from shared infrastructure. You ask him to point out which part of your yard is shared. He doesn't answer, just makes a note and walks away. You're ready for them. You've read every line of the HOA's handbook. There's nothing in there about planting trees on your own land. Nothing about shade. Nothing about protecting unauthorized solar panels from shadows. You're not damaging their property. You're simply growing yours. By the end of the week, the trees are in place. 13 total. All lined up in 2 rows. One close to the fence, the other deeper inside the yard. In a few months, they'll double in size. In a year, they'll block more than half the sunlight. And by the second year, those solar panels will be sitting in the dark. You water them daily. Check the soil. Talk to them like they're teammates. You've never been much of a gardener, but now it feels like therapy, like control, like taking your land back one leaf at a time. The HOA sends a letter. Concerns about unauthorized landscaping. You read it twice, then toss in the shredder. There's no violation listed. No demand. Just concern. They're nervous. That's good. You keep planting. Smaller shrubs now. Ground cover. Ivy along the fence. You're creating something alive, something natural. And every new root is a message. This space is mine. One afternoon, you see 2 men in suits walking the edge of your property, pointing at the panels, pointing at the trees. You step outside and ask if you can help them. They introduce themselves, consultants hired by the HOA to monitor energy efficiency. You laugh. You should have consulted me before turning my yard into a solar farm. They don't laugh back. They try to explain how much energy those panels are generating for the community, how much good it's doing. You ask how much good it's doing for you. They go quiet. Later that night, you notice something else. Lights on inside one of the panels. You never noticed them before. Tiny blinking signals, probably diagnostic. It hits you. They're watching the data, tracking the energy drop, measuring the shade. Good. Let them watch. Let them see their numbers slowly fall as your trees grow higher. Let them hold meetings and call experts and draft letters. Because none of that changes the roots spreading under your soil. The branches stretching wider. The light slipping away from their panels and landing on your leaves instead. The HOA underestimated you. They thought you'd ignore it, that you'd stay quiet, that you'd roll over and let them take what they wanted. But now, every tree in your yard stands as proof that you won't. You're not just blocking panels. You're reclaiming space, defending privacy, planting boundaries. And you're just getting started. 2 weeks later, the HOA comes back, this time with a warning letter hand-delivered to your door. It's printed on thick paper, sealed in an envelope like it's something official. Inside, it's full of legal-sounding language. Words like obstruction, interference, and non-compliance. But here's the thing, it's still just a warning. They can't actually cite a rule you've broken, because there isn't one. You read it once, then again, and then you set it down on your kitchen table and pour yourself a glass of water like it's any other day. Outside, the trees are growing fast. You've added mulch around their bases, reinforced them with stakes. A few already have leaves stretching up past your windows. The morning sun no longer hits the kitchen floor the way it used to. It hits branches now. Green, living shadows stretching across your walls. It feels right. A few neighbors have started asking questions. One older couple from down the street brings you cookies and thanks you for standing up to those suits. Turns out, you're not the only one they push around. You hear stories about people getting fined for paint colors, mailbox styles, even the length of their grass. It's all starting to add up now. Then the HOA president himself shows up. He doesn't call, doesn't email, just walks up your driveway in a polo shirt and loafers, with his hands folded behind his back like he owns the place. You meet him halfway. "I'd like to talk," he says. You nod and let him speak. He says the panels are part of a long-term plan, that the community approved it, that your lot was the most efficient placement for maximizing solar exposure. You ask him again, when exactly did you agree to give up your land? He dodges, changes the subject, talks about climate goals and shared responsibility. Then he gets to the point. If the trees cause significant loss of energy, the HOA may pursue remedies. You ask, like what? He hesitates. We're still evaluating options. You don't blink. You don't flinch. You just say, "Let me know when you figure that out." Then you turn around and walk back to your porch. You can feel the tension growing now. The HOA is nervous. You can tell by the way they hesitate, the way they keep sending letters instead of court notices, the way they circle your yard with clipboards but never step onto the grass. You know they're waiting, hoping the trees will somehow go away, hoping you'll get tired. But you're not tired. If anything, you're just getting more motivated. You plant 3 more trees, not for shade, just for good measure. They fill the last few gaps along your fence line. The canopy above is starting to form. The sun's path across your backyard has changed. You can track hour by hour where it once landed clean on panels. It now breaks into slices of light and shadow. You wonder how much power they're still pulling in. A quarter what they hoped? Less? You do more research. Not just laws now, but tree growth charts, soil health, water cycles. You're becoming an expert in your own rebellion. You're learning that victory doesn't always come with a slam of a gavel. It sometimes comes with roots and leaves and time. The HOA tries one more trick. They schedule a mandatory landscaping inspection for your property. You get the notice in the mail, slipped in under your door, as if they don't even want to see your face. You read the date, mark it on your calendar, then spend the next few days walking your yard, making sure everything is neat, trimmed, healthy, legal. On the day of the inspection, you wait on your porch with lemonade in hand. 3 of them show up, one with a clipboard, one with a camera, one just standing awkwardly behind them. Clearly new, they walk the perimeter, take pictures, whisper to each other. But they don't find anything out of place, because everything you've done is within the rules. The best part is, they know it. You can see it in their faces. You've outplayed them, not with lawyers, not with yelling, but with patience, with plants. The sun keeps rising, but now, in your yard, it's meeting resistance, a green resistance, an army of branches and bark, growing taller every day, and they're powerless to stop it. A few weeks later, something unexpected happens. One morning, you look outside and realize it's quiet. Too quiet. No buzzing from the solar panels. No flickering lights on their sides. Just silence. You walk out with your coffee, eyes scanning the rows. Nothing's changed physically, but you can feel the shift. It's like the panels have gone to sleep. Later that day, your suspicions are confirmed when a neighbor casually mentions that the HOA's solar project hasn't been reporting data for days. She overheard 2 board members whispering about it after a meeting. Something about underperformance and financial setbacks. You don't say much, just smile and nod, but inside you're celebrating. The trees are working. You keep up your routine, watering, trimming, caring. You've built something real, something they can't unplug. Every day the leaves grow a little thicker. Every week the shade spreads a little wider. The grass under the trees is darker now, cooler, and you started seeing more birds, squirrels, life returning. What started as a protest is turning into a sanctuary. That's when the letters stop. No more warnings. No more inspections. No more unexpected visitors with clipboards and vague threats. It's like the HOA is pretending nothing ever happened, like the panels were never installed, like the energy they counted on was never part of their grand plan. You know what this means. They're backing off, quietly, slowly, hoping you won't talk about it. But people are talking. One by one, neighbors drop by just a chat. They ask about the trees, about your strategy. Some even ask for advice. One man tells you he's planning to block an HOA security camera with a tall hedge. Another woman says she's looking into planting a vertical garden to hide an ugly utility box they forced onto her property. You didn't mean to start anything, but you did. You look back at where you started. A yard stripped of control, a silent decision made without you. And now, the power has shifted. Literally. Those panels once gleamed with confidence. Now they just sit there, shaded and useless, buried in green. A week later, you get a call from Carl, the former board member who warned you before. He sounds amused. He tells you the HOA held a closed-door meeting last night. The solar panel project has officially been paused for reassessment. No further installations. No expansion. No more yard takeovers. You thank him. He laughs and says, next time they want a power source, maybe they'll try asking. You hang up and go back outside. The sun is overhead, but your yard feels cool, peaceful. You walk under the branches, feeling the leaves above filter the light like stained glass. It's not just shade anymore, it's protection, ownership, a reminder what happens when people stop being passive. You spot a new bud forming on one of the youngest trees. It's small, barely there, but it feels like a victory flag, proof that life pushes forward. Even under pressure, especially under pressure, the panels still sit there, not producing, not humming, just collecting dust under the canopy you've grown. You're not even sure what the HOA will do with them now. They have to admit they failed, admit they trespassed, and that's not something HOAs are known for. But that's no longer your concern. You keep planting, not because you have to, but because you want to. You've started building a small garden between the trees. Flowers, herbs, even a bench to sit on. Your backyard is yours again, and this time it's better than before. Some might say it's petty to go this far. But to you, it's not about revenge. It's about balance, about taking back space that was quietly stolen, about showing what happens when you use patience instead of panic, nature instead of noise. Every tree is a message, every root a reminder. They brought solar panels. You brought a forest. Then, out of nowhere, the power company shows up. A white truck parks across the street, and two workers step out wearing reflective vests and clipboards. They're not HOA. They're utility. You watch from your porch as they approach the side of your yard where the solar panels sit in silence beneath the growing wall of trees. They don't knock. Don't say a word. Just walk around, inspect the wiring, take some notes, and leave without even glancing your way. The next day, you get a letter, this time not from the HOA, but from the energy provider. It's short, dry. They inform you that due to underperformance and limited light exposure, the panels on your property are no longer part of the community's shared solar network. Translation? They've been shut off. You read the letter twice, letting the words settle in. They've officially given up on your panels. You walk outside and look at them, rows and rows of tilted glass, useless now, covered in dust, flecks of bird droppings, a few leaves from your nearest maple brushing against them with every breeze. They were once the HOA's pride, a symbol of their reach, their plans, their quiet takeover. Now, they're just dead tech sitting on your land. You didn't have to scream. You didn't have to threaten. You just let the trees do their work. Later that week, a small truck with a city logo on the side rolls through. Two workers unload a measuring device and begin scanning the neighborhood. You catch one near your fence and ask what they're doing. He tells you it's a survey, checking for environmental impact. He says, looking at shade growth, energy loss. You laugh. You know exactly what triggered it. Word has spread beyond the HOA, maybe even past the neighborhood. Someone out there saw your little war and realized it mattered, that it wasn't just about solar or trees. It was about control, about quiet power grabs and louder resistance. You realize now, you weren't just reclaiming your yard. You were setting a precedent. Some neighbors are taking notes. One has started planting bamboo. Another bought tall potted hedges and rolled them along their property line. You walk the street and see little pockets of green resistance popping up like mushrooms after rain. You've started something bigger than you imagined. But it doesn't stop the HOA from trying one last desperate move. One morning, you wake up to the sound of talking just beyond your fence. You peek out and see 3 board members and a man in a suit pointing at your trees. He's got a blueprint tucked under his arm and a tape measure in his hand. You watch as they pace, argue, and finally knock on your door. You open it slowly. They introduce the man as a compliance consultant. You say nothing. Just wait. They claim your trees are too tall, that they interfere with community visual harmony. You ask for the rule. They flip through a binder, fingers trembling. Finally, the consultant clears his throat and says they're proposing a new guideline. You almost laugh. They want to create a rule, asterisk after asterisk the fact, because they couldn't stop you before. You remind them this isn't retroactive, that your trees are healthy, legal, and planted on your deeded land. They argue, but it's weak. You know they have no case. Not now. They leave. No threats. No fines. Just frustration. You walk your yard again that evening, this time slower. The sun filters through the leaves and ribbons now, dancing on the grass. It's cooler under the canopy and quieter too. You can hear birds nesting, wind moving to the branches, the soft creak of trees settling into their place. What they install without asking, you've neutralized without raising your voice. And those panels, they're still there, a reminder of how quickly plans fall apart when built on silence. They didn't account for someone who would fight with patience. They didn't imagine resistance would grow roots and stretch high into the sky. You didn't need to remove their panels. You just needed to grow past them. A month later, the HOA holds a community meeting, open to all residents, held in the same little clubhouse where they once plotted out solar zones and issued paint color violations like parking tickets. You don't usually attend these things, but this time you make an exception. Not to speak, just to watch. Listen. Feel the air shift. The room is full. People stand in the back, some leaning against the walls. You recognize faces. The couple who brought you cookies. The guy who planted hedges to block a security cam. Even Carl, sitting quietly in the third row with a notebook in his lap. The HOA president steps up to the podium. He clears his throat, starts with pleasantries, community pride, sustainability, the usual fluff. Then he gets to the point, the solar initiative. You hear him say words like challenges, unexpected obstructions, reevaluation. He never says trees, never says your name, but everyone knows. You see heads turn your way, subtle glances, little smirks. You just sit there with your arms crossed, letting him squirm through his carefully crafted PR meltdown. Then comes the slide. A chart flashes onto the screen, a bar graph showing power output over time. One bar stands out, a steep drop at the point your trees hit peak growth. It's so obvious. Even people in the back chuckle. The president moves quickly to another slide, something about new guidelines. He says they're reviewing policies related to vegetation height and proximity. There it is again, trying to rewrite the rules after losing control. He opens the floor to questions. And that's when the meeting takes a turn. One woman raises her hand and asks why no homeowners were consulted about the panel placements in the first place. A man follows with a question about property rights. Another asks how much the panel installation cost and who approved it. The board stumbles. The president fumbles his answers, trying to stay composed. You watch him shrink behind the podium, his voice losing power with every question. What started as a one-way speech is now a full-on interrogation. Someone finally asks, "What happens to the panels now?" And the room goes quiet. He says they're considering options, but the energy provider has officially disconnected them from the shared grid. Meaning, they're done, non-functional, expensive decor. One giant, failed science project that you never signed up for. You leave before the meeting ends, slipping out the back while more questions swirl in your wake. You've heard enough. Outside, the air is cooler. Your yard is just a short walk away, glowing in the soft light of dusk. The trees stand tall like sentries, casting long shadows across the lawn. You walk between them, touching the bark as you go. They've grown so much in just a year. Some are twice your height now. You wonder how big they'll get in 5 years. 10. What the yard will look like then. You start to love the sound they make when the wind rolls through, soft and deep like breathing. There's life in it, reassurance. You didn't just win an argument. You built something that lasts. Sometimes you catch yourself smiling at the irony. They tried to force solar panels on your land in the name of sustainability. But you're the one who brought back nature, who cooled the ground, who drew wildlife back into the yard, who created balance with nothing more than water, patience, and roots. And now, every time the HOA walks past your property, they have to look up, literally. Your forest has become part of the skyline, a natural landmark, a quiet rebellion in full bloom. You've started noticing something else too. People driving slower past your house, neighbors lingering by the fence just to peek in. A few have even started planting their own trees, not out of defiance, out of inspiration. You see it in their faces. They're not afraid anymore. You crack something open. It started with frustration, with panels that appeared without permission. But what it became is something far better, something living, something no letter, no meeting, no policy could ever erase. It's strange how fast things settle after a storm. The HOA doesn't bring up the panels anymore. Not in meetings, not in emails, not even in passing. It's like they've decided to bury the whole thing in silence, hoping time will erase the memory. But the panels are still there, sitting uselessly on your land like forgotten relics, surrounded by thick, thriving trees that grow a little taller every week. They didn't win, and they know it. And maybe that's why they've started being careful. You notice small changes. The way they word their notices now. Polite, measured, almost apologetic. No more threats disguised as reminders. No more surprise inspections. The tone has shifted. You're no longer just a homeowner. You're the one who pushed back and didn't blink. Meanwhile, your yard has taken on a new life. You've added a gravel path that winds between the trees, lined with smooth river stones. There's a bench under the biggest oak now, one that catches the morning light just right. Birds nest in the branches above. Squirrels chase each other across the canopy. You can hear the rustle of wings every time the wind stirs the leaves. Sometimes you sit out there with your coffee and just breathe. It's peaceful in a way it never was before. Because now, everything around you is chosen, planted, cared for. Every tree was an answer. Every inch of shade, a quiet no to being ignored. And people feel it when they visit. They slow down. They listen. Even strangers walking by seem to notice. One afternoon, a man you've never met stops at the fence while you're watering a row of saplings. He points at the trees and says, "Smart move." Turns out he's from the next neighborhood over. Heard about what happened. Said his HOA's trying something similar. Wants advice. You talk for a bit, and before he leaves, he says something that sticks. Asterisk, you didn't just block sunlight. You changed the story. Asterisk, you think about that later. He's not wrong, because now, when people talk about your neighborhood, it's not just about strict rules and solar panels. It's about the house with the forest, the yard that fought back, the quiet guy who didn't yell or argue, just planted trees and waited. It's become part of the local lore. And the best part? You never had to ask for it. You just let it grow. And it's not just the reputation that's grown. One day, you find a letter in the mailbox, this time from a local environmental nonprofit. They like to feature your property in a small write-up. Nothing flashy, just a piece about natural shade solutions and eco-restoration in residential areas. You say yes, mostly out of curiosity. A week later, a friendly woman with a camera and a notepad stops by. She walks the yard, takes photos of the branches stretching over the fence, marvels at how dense the canopy is already. You explain everything, not just what you planted, but why. She listens, nods, smiles like she understands the whole thing without you having to spell it out. The article goes online the next week. A few paragraphs, a few photos, but it spreads faster than you expect. Comments pour in, people thanking you, people sharing similar stories. Some angry, some inspired, some saying they'd never thought of trees as protest. That's when it hits you. This whole thing, what started as a local fight over unwanted panels, has turned into something bigger. A story about boundaries, about taking back space, about finding your voice even when you never raised it. And still, every evening, the sun drops low behind your trees, casting long shadows over those silent rows of panels. The air gets cooler, the birds settle, the hum of the world slows down, and your forest, once just a line of hopeful saplings, now stands tall, an unspoken answer to anyone who thought they could act without asking.